This didn't work at all like this in the 18th century. Absolutely not. They did not have this kind of musical world. A fully trained musician would have created new music constantly for every occasion. This was expected. And a fully trained musician would play at least the keyboard and maybe another one or two instruments, maybe be a singer, and would compose and conduct and be a church musician or court musician. They could do everything. And this is what I found so interesting when I realized this. There was no such thing as a fixed repertoire. They did not have a fixed repertoire. So there was no guide to the something flutist's 18th century repertoire. There was none. They were playing new music all the time. And the primary purpose of studying old music was to gain stylistic insights from it. Okay? And then finally, together with this idea of new music, this last line here, nearly all keyboard music in ensembles was played from figured bass. Okay? And I'm going to say more about what figured bass is if you're not familiar with that. By the way, just to help me out here, how many are musicians? Okay, I'm going to talk to you almost exclusively like you're musicians, and I'll clarify a few things for the few who aren't. Okay, but mostly I'm going to speak music language because almost everybody's a musician. Figured bass. Okay, so a few things about figured bass. Figured bass is an incomplete form of notation. It's a couple of numbers and a bass line. And we'll look at some in a few moments. So all you get is whatever is playing in the bass, and then these mysterious numbers. Those numbers represent intervals above the bass. So if I have just a G in the bass, and I have 5-3, most of you know this, that's going to be a fifth and a third, which is D and B. So I don't need these notes written out. All I need is that bass note and a couple of numbers. Okay? And then 5-4, 5-3, 6-4, 5-4, 5-3, 7-3, 6-4, flat 6-4, 5-4, sharp 4-6, etc. All right. So, when players were playing from figured bass, and this is crucial, they were not reciting music, they were completing it. Okay? They had to do some work before the final thing was there, because the numbers are only giving you a general idea of what is to happen. There are issues of, for example, if I play something like 5-3, and I'll do 6-4-3, 5-3, 3-6-5, 5, okay? So if I just saw this bass line, and all of those numbers, I could just chunk it out like this. But an experienced player would also know to decorate it. Than that. So they're completing the music, not reciting the music. Now, if you think of other areas in your lives where you can recite something or follow the directions exactly versus completing something incomplete, you realize the difference in what you learn. Take a recipe, for example. If I have an exact recipe and I follow it and do everything, I'll learn something about cooking. But if I don't have a complete recipe, I only have like a photo of the finished thing and a cabinet full of all kinds of ingredients, and I have to figure it out, I'm going to learn a lot more about cooking. Or make a mess. Either one. Not sure which one. Okay, figured bass was a central component in musicianship training, not just a shorthand for performing, but it was the way they were taught from the beginning. And keyboard players were accustomed to thinking in figured bass. And the best analogy for this is jazz players thinking in chord symbols. Anybody play jazz? Okay, both of you, great. So for a classical musician, if you say C sharp minor 7, the classical musician is going, okay, I know I need a C sharp, and I need a minor third, and I think chords have fifths. Oh, and then I need a seventh, but which one is it? Oh, the minor seventh. There, got it. C sharp minor 7. They have to build it up one thing at a time. A jazz musician has played C sharp minor 7 thousands and thousands of times and has a whole bunch of different versions ready to go and doesn't have to build it up like that. They can just deploy it. And figured bass is the same. They weren't sitting there counting intervals. They knew exactly what all this stuff meant from a lifetime of use. Okay, 18th century keyboard players spent most of their time not reciting works from the repertoire, but completing works that were new. In playing from the figured bass, the keyboardist is participating in the construction of music. This is a phrase I love to use because it explains so much. When you have to participate in the construction of music, whereas when I recite from the score, I am not participating in the construction of the music. Okay, I might get to decide how long that fermata is on page 3. Well, that's not really that much, right? I'm not really helping that much. But when I have to help build the whole thing, I really understand how it's put together.